Hi everyone. Trying to clear my camera there. My name is Ms. Peplinski, Mr. Mihal student teacher, and today we are going to be talking about Jackson, our President Jackson. And we have been leading up to him over the past 3 days. We started talking about Jefferson on Wednesday. This is for Unit 2. Thursday, the War of 1812, and Friday, we talked about the era of good feelings and President Monroe. So today we are going to jump into President Jackson. This is the lesson for Monday, September 19th. So if you are watching because you are absent, this is just me going through the material as we would in class so that you can review. If you're watching because you're trying to prepare for the test, that's also another good reason to just have this playing in the background, paying attention to it, whatever, just so you get more of a rundown of exactly what we are covering in class on Monday, September 19th regarding President Jackson. So the first thing that you're going to do on that day is go into our CMS Canvas page. We're going to be starting to do a warm-up every day. So as you come in, you're going to get your warm-up up and answer these few questions that are in your warm-up. So you're going to go into courses and select our course, American History Honors, Semester 1 Mihal. Everything for this class is always going to be in modules. You're going to scroll on down until you get to 919 Jackson warm-up. Let's see if I can show you the questions on here since we will not be together since this is a video. Let's see what it's looking like here. If you are absent, you don't have to make this up, but it is important information to know, so it'll be helpful for you to take a look at. Let's see, our first question is, what did Americans know about Andrew Jackson before he became president? I wrote in there, hint, War of 1812. Think about that for just a second. What do you remember about Jackson that we've already mentioned? Think back to Thursday when we talked about the War of 1812. And the answer is that he was a war hero, a military hero. He won the Battle of New Orleans in the War of 1812. So he led troops to victory on the field and he gained popularity in that way. Let's see what else we got here. What is the United States like when Jackson runs for president in 1824? Excuse me. In other words, what have we discussed so far in Unit 2? So I just talked about a few of those things. Take a minute to remember any additional details that you think might be important for understanding what America is like when Jackson runs for president in 1824. And we're having if you need to think about it a little bit more, always pause the video if I ask a question and you really want to try to think to yourself what the answer is before I move on. That's the benefit of this being a video so that you can pause it, think a little longer, reference back to your notes, whatever you need to do to make sure that you're reviewing the material in your mind in the best way that you can. So some of the things that are noteworthy here is that Jackson is dealing with increased nationalism since the War of 1812. There's more nationalism, more patriotism, more pride for being an American. We also have the era of good feelings because there's only one major political party right now, that is the Democratic Republican Party. So this election of 1824, all four of the major candidates that we'll talk about today are all members of the Democratic Republican Party. We have the Industrial Revolution beginning, more manufacturing emerging in the United States. The American system is in place. That is what we talked about, that there are protective tariffs. That's that tax on imported goods because they're trying to encourage people to buy from the manufactured goods from the North. And those tariffs are being used to establish better transportation system, to establish even better trade networks within the United States, such as the Transcontinental Railroad, the Erie Canal, and just national roads in general. Those are becoming what will eventually be highways. We have the Monroe Doctrine at this time, where President Monroe is encouraging Europe not to be involved in American colonies or try to establish any more colonies anywhere in the Americas. We have the early stages of Manifest Destiny. So that is that westward expansion that we were talking about, starting under Jefferson and continued after the War of 1812. And as an effect of it, as the Native American people continue to be pushing west, more of the white settlers will be also pushing west and moving to the west, making more settlements, cities, um, towns out further west. And we have sectional tensions continuing to grow over the expansion of slavery. We have states debating whether or not slavery should be allowed in those areas. In the new Western areas, should slavery be allowed in those areas? So that's something that people are thinking about at this time. So these are all leading up to what the United States is like as Jackson runs for president in 1824. So today, rather than me standing at the front and giving you all notes to talk about, you are actually going to rotate the room and fill out some of your own notes. So I'm going to have this document here printed. Each of the pages will be at a different station around the room for you all to go around and fill in your notes. So I will show you for those who are watching this because you are absent. I will show you where I would like you to fill in notes from this document. So if you want to go ahead and fill them in as I'm talking, that might work well for you. If you want to just pause this and fill them in, that is also fine. But the document that I'm going to be using on the screen that I'm pulling up here, 919 slides, is right here, 919 Jackson slides on Canvas. And you are going to open this that says 919 Jackson Notes and Stations. It says make a copy here, so you'll just click on that. And remember that you can make a copy and be able to edit on it by clicking on File right here and then Make a Copy. So once you click on that entire presentation, you'll be able to fill in the notes. So for this part that I'm going to talk about, you only have to do this first slide. So we're going to be looking at this first slide to answer each of these boxes. So each page of this document has a bolded title on it, and that correlates with one of the bolded titles here. You do not have to copy down everything that is on the slides, even though I put slides in quotes because it's a Google Doc today. Do not copy down everything on this. Read this or listen to me talk about this, and then just put a summary in here. Pick out what you think are the most important things and throw them in this box. You can, of course, change the font size to be smaller if you need to write more information than the current font size is allowing you to fit in that box. So the first thing we'll talk about with President Jackson is the 1824 election, the corrupt bargain. Jackson appeals to the common man. Those are people who come from humble backgrounds and tough beginnings. He's also popular because he fought for American independence and led troops to win in the Battle of New Orleans during the War of 1812. In the election of 1824, Jackson won the Electoral College and popular vote, but he did not have the majority of votes over 50% because Adams, Jackson, Crawford, and Clay were all running for president, all for the Democratic Republican Party. That's unlike today where we have two major candidates. So because there were 4 candidates, the vote was split up so that none of those candidates earned over 50% of the Electoral College or popular vote. That means that the election is inconclusive, so the decision goes to the House of Representatives, as was precedented in the election of 1800. That means it happened before that the election was inconclusive, and we went to the House last time, so we're going to go to the House again. Henry Clay and John Quincy Adams were 2 of the candidates, and they had similar views. Clay came in 4th place out of the 4 main candidates in the Electoral College election, so he knows that he will not be able to win the presidency in the House of Representatives vote. Therefore, he decides to team up with John Quincy Adams, and in that team partnership, Clay convinces the House of Representatives members to vote for Adams. In exchange, Adams, when he wins the presidency, promises to appoint Henry Clay to the Secretary of State position. And remember, that is part of the president's cabinet. So without the Adams and Clay deal, Jackson likely would have won the election of 1824 because he was first in the Electoral College and popular vote, even though he did not have over 50%, so he did not win. Jackson's followers accused Henry Clay and Adams of creating a corrupt bargain, and Jackson returns to win the election of 1828. So for that page that we just went through, fill in some notes in this box: the 1824 election, the corrupt bargain. And now for the Jacksonian Democrats box. Jackson and his supporters were so upset about that election of 1824 that they actually left the Democratic Republican Party, ending the era of good feelings where there was only one political party. They began a new party called Jacksonian Democrats. Eventually, people will drop Jacksonian from this title. So this is the beginning of the modern day Democratic Party we still have in the country today. During this era, artists paint Jackson sitting on farms in relaxed posture to show that he understands hard work and appeal more to that common man. They paint Jackson speaking to large, diverse crowds, which include African American people and women, which again appeals to the common man, says that he is appealing to many different types of people and representing many Americans. So fill in from that we just talked about into this one, the Jacksonian Democrats. Now for the election of 1828 box. This is essentially a, quote, do-over of the 1824 election with only two main people running for president, because now we do have two political parties. We have the Democratic Party, the Jacksonian Democratic Party, and the Democratic Republican Party, which is now leaning towards sometimes just being called the Republican Party. So a bit less confusing that way. Jackson wins both the popular and the Electoral College vote, and this time wins the presidency. So we have John Quincy Adams for only one term, and now we are going to jump into President Jackson. So copy some notes from that 1828 election into this box. You're also welcome to change the size of the boxes as much as you need to, make it into 2 slides, whatever you need to do. Now we're getting into the age of the common man box. When Jackson wins the presidential election in 1828, the age of the common man begins. People praise Jackson for protecting everyday citizens, the common man from a government run by the elite. Many farmers loved Jackson. Voting requirements change. Jackson gives the right to vote to most white men over the age of 21. Previously, in many states, men had to own large plots of land in order to vote. Therefore, more, quote, common people are voting. The Democratic Republicans do know how to use this common man tactic against Jackson. Henry Clay, who is one of the candidates along with Jackson in the election of 1824, was part of that corrupt bargain, says Andrew Jackson is ignorant, hypocritical, corrupt, and easily swayed by the basest men who surround him. Basest means people who are in the lowest social classes. The Democratic Republicans also call Jackson's presidency mob rule. Clay and Adams say that only people who drink and party vote for Jackson, and that it's not efficient to be run by, quote, mob. So you can fill in some notes for the common man in your Google slide. The spoils system. Before Jackson, new presidents usually kept government officials appointed by the presidents who came before them. But it was different under Jackson. He replaced 20% of John Quincy Adams' appointees with members of the Jacksonian Democratic Party. Previously, it was still common for presidents to fill open positions with their friends, but most cabinets held people with differing opinions. Think Hamilton and Jefferson under Washington. When Jackson decides to fill the cabinet with loyal party members, there will be less disagreements. This is called the spoils system. The spoils system is the practice of rewarding people who are loyal to the political party with well-paying government positions. And I need to just delete this. So now you should have the first slide here filled in. Of course, you can go back and look on Canvas for the ones that you missed. Now, after those slides are finished, after everyone has filled in their slides, we're going to move on to these stations. So this is going to be like when we did Washington's farewell address and some other important events on Washington. But instead of just doing it on a worksheet, we'll have this Google slide format. So all you will have to do is, let me just go back into modules to find this. I'm going to go down to Unit 2 as usual. And the questions are on that slide. So there's only like one question per document. So I'm thinking each one should probably only take you like 5 minutes. So what do we have here? Jackson documents. So you'll just open this right up. You don't need to write on this at all, so you don't necessarily have to make a copy unless you want to write on it. If you're in class that day, we will have copies of each document on each table, and then we'll rotate them like we did for Washington. But you will go ahead and read each of these documents and answer the corresponding question. So here we have Station 1, Cherokee Nation. So you just go right here, Station 1, Cherokee Nation. You can preview the question. What is one reason why the Cherokee were fearful of moving to new lands? Provide evidence from the document. So whenever I say provide evidence, I want you to use a quote. So that means that you should really read this document, highlight any words that you don't know what they mean, find out what they mean. Just like some of the others, I do have vocabulary at the bottom that I think might be a bit challenging for some people or just for in general students in 2022. So make sure you read this preview your question, read the document, highlight where in the document. You don't necessarily have to highlight it, just in your mind, or you can make a copy and physically highlight it if you choose to. Make a note to yourself of who is speaking, who are they speaking to, when was this spoken or written, what are they speaking about, and what in the text answers your question. So you will go through all 5 of these stations. In the classroom, there will be a station with me where I help you walk through any missing assignments and set a goal for the unit. You can fill that in at home if you feel that that will help you and you were absent that day. If you were in class that day, you have to fill in this section. If you are watching this because you were absent that day, you can skip station 6 unless you want to look through. If you know you have some missing assignments and you want to look through and see which ones those are, make notes of them, and set a goal for this unit, of course, I invite you to do so. That is pretty much it for Monday, September 19th. So this was a pretty short video as compared to some of the other ones that we've done so far, but it should be a pretty good day. There is just one quick exit ticket that you will do at the end. So I'll go ahead and show you that. If you were absent, you're excused. But if you're watching this because you weren't paying attention that day or something, go back and do this exit ticket. If you're watching this because you're just reviewing and you remember doing this exit ticket, that's good. Let's take a look at these questions. Why was the 1824 election called a corrupt bargain? Because Henry Clay and John Quincy Adams partnered with one another to convince the House of Representatives members to vote for Adams, and in return, Adams would give Clay, who is doing the convincing, a position as Secretary of State. So he would still be in a powerful position. What new political party is created as a result of the 1824 election? Jacksonian Democrats, or you can just write Democrats. Again, always just pause it if you want some time to think about the answer. Why are some people like Henry Clay worried about Jackson becoming president? They think that the, quote, mobs will be running this presidency if Jackson is allowed to run. They think that he's untrustworthy, that he has a bad character, You can write about anything like that. You can throw in that quote that I had on the document that said, Jackson is so terrible. He hangs out with terrible people and those people rub off on him. You can throw that quote in there if you want, that's optional. And the last question, what is the spoils system? It was a practice used by Jackson where he appointed friends, loyal supporters to government offices. And that is it. So we'll have a pretty good day on Monday. I'm excited to see you all then. As always, please do reach out to me if you have any questions about anything. I'm always happy to help you. I'm happy to try my best to change things up to be more accommodating for you. If you're feeling like you need some other method of instruction, I really am trying to change things as much as possible to accommodate everyone's needs. There are 30 people in each class, so it's always going to be really challenging to accommodate all 60 people's individual needs. But if always voice any ideas that you have because I might think that it's a good idea. And no one else is voicing ideas, I'll definitely take it. And if I'm getting so many ideas that I'm overwhelmed, I'll take the ideas that many people mention to me. So please let me know anything you'd like to change in the classroom. For example, somebody mentioned to me that they want to play more of those review games that we played right before the test. So I have been trying to do some of those when we have free time. Somebody mentioned to me they want to do more videos. So we're doing those crash courses to help you review, reiterate the information that we're covering in class. I hope you all have a wonderful day and we will see you soon.